Tells me that we have the thumbs up.
Yes, sir. We're ready to go.
Nope. Hold on. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning. I'm Kenyon McDuffie, Council Member for Ward 5 and Chair of the Council's Committee on Business and Economic Development. Today's Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. And we're convening this meeting virtually via Zoom. The time is 9:05 a.m. and I'm calling for this additional meeting of the committee. For the record, I'd like to note that we have a quorum which consists of myself, as well as Ward 2 Councilmember Brooke Pinto, Ward 6 Councilmember Charles Allen, and Ward 7 Councilmember Vincent Gray. Today, the committee will consider proposed resolution 24-389, the Chief Financial Officer of the District of Columbia Fitzroy Lee Confirmation Resolution of 2021, as well as Bill 24-44, the Reopen Washington, D.C. Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Amendment Act of 2021. PR 24-389, the Chief Financial Officer of the District of Columbia Fitzroy Lee Confirmation Resolution of 2021, was introduced by Chairman Mendelson at the request of the Mayor on October 4th, 2021, and referred to the committee on October 19th, 2021. If approved, the resolution will confirm the appointment of the Mayor's nominee, Dr. Fitzroy Lee, as the Chief Financial Officer of the District of Columbia. The appointment will be for the remainder of a term, which will end on June 30th, 2022. Dr. Lee is the acting Chief Financial Officer, having been appointed by the Mayor after the departure of Jeff DeWitt. If confirmed, Dr. Lee will bring more than 20 years of experience at the Office of the Chief Financial Officer to the role. The committee convened a roundtable on January 25th of this year to consider the measure. During that roundtable, Dr. Lee spoke about his vision for the office. He is certainly well qualified for the position, and the committee is eager to see what innovations his leadership will bring to the office should the proposed resolution be approved this morning. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I move the draft committee report in print with Lee for staff to make technical and conforming changes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The measure is approved. Next, we're going to consider Bill 24-44, the Reopen Washington, D.C. Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Amendment Act of 2021. This bill was introduced on January 26, 2021 by Chairman Mendelson at the request of the Mayor. It was referred to the committee on February 2nd, 2021, and a public hearing was held on May 10th, 2021. The purpose of this bill is to make technical and substantive changes to the laws governing the sale, consumption, and enforcement of alcohol in the District of Columbia. A significant portion of the bill is the district government's response in providing assistance to businesses in the hospitality industry that have unfortunately borne the brunt of the economic recession due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Amongst other things, the bill would extend the pop-up program that has been in effect since July 26, 2020 until December 31st, 2023. This program allows on-premises retail establishments such as restaurants, taverns, hotels, nightclubs, and multi-purpose facilities on private clubs to temporarily sell and serve alcohol indoors and for off-premises consumption from up to 2 additional locations. It extends the street review program that has been in effect since July 26, 2020 until December 31st, 2023. Like the pop-up program, this program allows on-premises retail establishments to temporarily sell and serve alcohol on new or expanded ground level or street level outdoor space. It creates a new license category for commercial lifestyle centers where patrons may purchase and openly consume alcohol in certain locations designated in commercial and mixed-use zone areas. Creates a new license category for third-party delivery companies to regulate third-party companies such as Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, when providing same-day alcohol deliveries to consumers. Creates incentives to attract new full-service grocery stores towards 7 and 8, which is very important. It allows manufacturers with brew pub endorsements to sell more than 15,000 gallons of beer brewed at their location in the district to other retailers and wholesalers. The committee worked extremely closely with external and internal stakeholders to get the bill to the point where it is today. And as you all may have noticed, the bill makes substantial changes to the introduced version. The Council's Office on Racial Equity has also been very instrumental in assisting the committee to arrive at this current version of the measure before us today. The core office was critical in pointing out structural issues that act as barriers for more Black and brown communities opening up on-premise restaurants east of the river. As a matter of fact, I highlighted this issue during ABRA's performance oversight hearings last year. I would like to note, however, that this issue goes beyond the scope of this bill and to some extent beyond the scope of the responsibilities of a single agency such as ABRA. Interagency collaboration is necessary, particularly with agencies like DCRA and OTR to answer questions on the basic business license and clean hands. Overall, I believe this bill points us in the right direction in helping the hospitality industry recover from the challenges they have faced as a result of this pandemic. With that, is there any discussion? I'm sorry about that. No discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I move the draft committee report in print.
Chairman,
I think you're frozen.
I think
I'm
you're
sorry about that, guys. You know what? I see the hands now. I had a delay. I got you. So I'll go to Councilmember Charles Allen, followed by Councilmember Pinto. And my apologies for that. My internet was temporarily unstable. And so there is some discussion. So let me start with Councilmember Allen. Thanks.
I hear that. And also, just in case you,
Councilmember Gray,
just put his hand up.
Councilmember Pinto.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me start with some thank yous. This is a pretty massive bill. I want to thank the mayor and their team for the hard work and putting this forward. I want to thank you, Mr. McDuffie, and your team for really thinking this through. There are a lot of things. It's a big bill, there's a lot in here, but I think it also helps incorporate some things we learned, frankly, through the difficulties of a pandemic, but some ideas that help support our local businesses, help them grow, create vibrancy. And so I think there's a lot of elements included in here, and how we use our public space, how we leverage that for our local businesses, especially when they have struggled so mightily. So I really appreciate the hard work that goes into that. One thing, I do have a question I'm going to ask in a second. One other very specific item that I wanted to make sure that I thanked you and your team on, and that was working with me on one aspect. In particular, I want to thank the DC Brewers Guild and the DC Association of Beverage Alcohol Wholesalers. That has to do with the brew pubs being able to make that delivery. I think that everybody negotiated in good faith and landed in a really good space. And so I really am grateful for the hard work that went into that. And I think it's going to be an exciting part of helping our local brewery establishments be able to grow, be able to expand, create new jobs, and put new product out into the community. So that's, I think, just one of a really great thing that's within this bill that I think is going to be wonderful. The last thing I had, Mr. McDuffie, is a question, and just to help me make sure I understand what the language is doing as it relates to new grocery stores. So, and this is a question because I'm trying to help make sure I understand it. If you could help me clarify. If does the language state that after January 1, 2021, a new grocery store has to be in Ward 7 or 8 under the old ward boundaries, and if they operate for at least a year, then they can open a new grocery store in one of the other wards? That's that language I just don't quite understand. I intent around incentivizing grocery stores in 7 and 8, 1000% agree and support that. What I'm also trying to understand is what impact would that have on then restrictions in terms of a grocery store being able to open in a different ward? Could you help me walk me through that just to make sure I understand? I might have been confused in trying to read through the committee print. I'm not sure if you, Mr. McDuffie, you're muted, so I don't know if you were able to hear what I was asking.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work on that unstable connection. But
Sorry
the
about that.
short answer is yes. And you had it. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you. I'm sorry, I think we're muted again, sir.
My apologies. I'm trying to work off of my cell phone so I can hear the question that you asked specifically because I'm having problems with my laptop. I believe you asked a question about the grocery store, and you wanted to ask a specific question. The short answer to your question, because my staff heard the question, the full question was yes. But if you could ask your question again about what you need me to walk you.
Absolutely. And to maybe help illustrate it, I'll use an example just to help make sure it's clear. So the question I had is making sure I understand how we are both rightfully incentivizing that we want grocery stores to be opening in Ward 7 and 8. And especially with Mr. Gray joining us, 100% agree with that. We want to prioritize that and incentivize that. What I was unclear about was if the language in the committee print means that any new grocery store in wards 1 through 6 cannot open unless they first operate for more than a year in wards 7 and 8. And I'll give a practical example just to make sure I'm clear about my understanding here. So in Ward 6, for example, just recently a Harris Teeter that closed. And so the property owner is looking at a new grocer that could go into that space. So I am trying to understand, does that mean that a grocer would not be able to come into that space unless they first operate in Ward 7 and 8 for more than a year? That's the part I'm just confused by. And maybe there's a simple answer and I'm just kind of confused by the committee print, but that's the part I'm trying to make sure I understand.
So a grocery store would have, a full service grocery store would have to open in order to be able to get the Class A would have to open in Ward 7 and Ward 8, the Class A privilege for at minimum 12 months before opening in another ward. And so the point of the measure is to try to advance the availability and accessibility of healthy food options in full service to Ward 7 and 8. And so that's the point. I think, if you think about a few years ago, we had a scenario where there was supposed to be some groceries opening up, and then they opened up in a couple of wards. I believe it was wards 5, 6, and 4, Walmart, but didn't open up in Ward 7 where they were supposed to. And so, I just use that as an example of where we want the grocery store to operate in a ward where we're trying to attract the incentives and allow the Class A license to be there before they open up another ward. For example, to sort of use a version of your example, if let's just say McDuffie Grocer wants to locate in Ward 7 and 8 and also wants to locate in Ward 5 and wants to open up, have a Class A in all those locations, both those locations, well, it has to open up in Ward 7 and 8 first and operate for 12 months before it can open in its Ward 5 location.
Okay. And does that mean
what we don't want is people to establish grocers, get the incentive through a certain licensure, and then perhaps disregard that grocer, close up or whatever and then focus on another area where there's a higher concentration of incomes and density. And so that was the point of the way that it's drafted.
Got it. That's helpful. And I assume what that means is it follows the brand. In other words, Safeway operating a grocery store, obviously now for more than 12 months in Ward 7 or 8, means that Safeway could open a new site in Wards 1 through 6, but brand new grocery store, McDuffie Grocers, using your example, they would have to operate in Ward 7 or 8 for 12 months before they could then open up in a different part of the city.
You mean and also obtain a Class A license?
Class A, yeah.
Yeah. No, so they would have to open up in Ward 7 and 8.
Okay.
It has to be brand new. So it's not, I mean, it's not restricting existing grocers, but we're talking about brand new grocery stores that open up.
All right. Thank you very much. That helps me understand the intent. I might just want to, Mr. McDuffie, kind of between here and once it moves to the whole, just make sure I fully understand that. Certainly work with you, Mr. Gray, Councilmember White, because I think the intent is spot on. And I, again, 100% support that. I'm just trying to make sure I understand it. And then as in wards, just with my Ward 6 hat on, as I have grocers that are looking at other places in Ward 6, just making sure I understand how that works so that we get the incentive to put the grocers where we need to in Ward 7 and 8, which is a huge priority, but also not preclude the ability for a grocer in the other parts. So certainly doesn't.
So it doesn't preclude, it doesn't preclude the ability of a grocer. Let's just be clear. Grocers can go through the process and
well, I should say Class A grocer then.
Yeah.
I
I
don't.
mean, that's the big distinction though. And I think that's the whole point of the mayor's intention when she included that provision in the bill that she sent down to us. I had some similar questions you're asking, and it came out during the hearing. And frankly, over the course of several months following the hearing, to make sure that we understood what she was trying to accomplish, but also to hear from ANC commissioners and others around the city, especially in Ward 7 and 8, because there were a number of questions around that provision. Yeah,
I'll double check. I don't think I have any grocers that don't have a Class A license, but I'll double check. But anyway, I fully support the bill. Just would love to follow up with you and particular our Ward 7 and 8 colleagues to help support the incentives. Just make sure I fully understand that aspect of the bill. But no hesitation in supporting this today. Fully support it. Appreciate that and look forward to working with you. Thank you, Mr. McDuffie.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Councilmember Allen. Next is Councilmember Pinto, then by Councilmember Gray.
Who's next, Mr. Chairman?
Councilmember Pinto, followed by Councilmember Gray. I'm not sure. I might still have a delay. I apologize. I'm trying to work that out.
Don't worry about it.
No problem. Thank you, Councilmember Gray, and thank you, Chairman. Your sound sounds much better, so hopefully you're back up and running. But really excited about this bill and the Spark Up today. I think that this effort is a really good example of not just responding to the emergency status of where we've been with the pandemic for the last 2 years, but really taking the lessons that we've learned about changes in attitudes, changes in how people want to open a business, on how people want to go out to a restaurant or visit with people in outdoor spaces, and really leaning into those changes and adopting some of them for our city as we go forward. And I think that that's a really exciting development and the way that a lot of our legislation needs to be oriented towards as we move into this third year of the pandemic, and not just response emergency mode, but really learning and leaning into some of these new behaviors that so many in our city have. A couple of specific pieces I want to point out: the commercial lifestyle centers. I'm really enthusiastic about, especially the provisions, and want to thank you and your team, Chairman McDuffie, especially Ogo, Chike, and Alicia, of course, and Ella Hansen on my team has been working very hard with yours in this bill on a couple of specific pieces. I talked about the commercial lifestyle center, but requiring tenants to reuse containers to serve beverages so that we can make sure that our sustainability goals are met. Describing in license applications how each tenant plans to sanitize and reuse each cup multiple times, allowing businesses to work with third-party vendors, working in partnership with the Sierra Club, ABRA, and folks on the Hill to get the language right based on reusable standards in other parts of the country, as we have more and more people dining out and hopefully visiting these commercial lifestyle centers, making sure that we are not adding to our waste and harming our environment. I want to thank you all in engaging in many productive meetings and compromises with the committee, wholesalers, and producers to come to an agreement on self-distribution to allow a licensee holding a brew pub endorsement to be permitted to sell and deliver annually up to 15,500 gallons of malt beverages brewed at the location to other retail licensees for resale purposes. I think this is another great example of learning the lessons from the pandemic and what brew pubs really want and need and what their customers want and need. Adding language to require that businesses applying for a streetery permit give notice to the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commission so that their ANC is aware of the application and has time to pass a resolution if they choose to. This is an issue that we continue to hear about from our ANC commissioners and neighbors wanting to be involved in the process. It's so exciting that these streeteries can go up. I think that they're a great thing for the restaurants, they're a great thing for neighborhoods, they're a great thing for residents. But neighbors want to be notified when changes are happening in their neighborhoods, and giving notice to the Office of the ANC is a good way to do so. And lastly, the extension of the streeteries for the full 12-month period in 2022 and 2023, so that businesses don't have to pay to deconstruct their streeteries every winter for a couple of months and then reconstruct it in the spring, I think is a really important aspect of this bill, taking into account the reality of running a business and how expensive it is to build out these stations, construct them, deconstruct them, and again, following the trends that people are dining outside, even in the cold months, with access to heaters and warm places. So excited again about this bill. Thank you all for all of the hard work on this bill. And thank you, Chairman McDuffie, for compromising and working with us in so many of these aspects. And I'm looking forward to passing this or moving this out of the committee today.
Thank you, Councilman Pinto. Next, we're going to turn to Ward 7, Councilmember Vincent Gray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you very much for moving the Reopen Washington, D.C. Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Amendment Act of 2022. I've been working diligently to attract and establish more grocery stores in Ward 7, which we know we desperately need. We attempting to target specific sites such as the Skyland Town Center, which you know about, Mr. Chairman, of course, Parkside Center, Gateway, Fletcher Johnson. This bill includes provisions designed to incentivize the grocery stores coming to wards 7 and 8, and I support and on account of being a long-standing lack of access to sufficient full-service grocery stores and persistent food deserts that have existed in Ward 7. The bill specifically uses the carrot of Class A off-premise alcohol licenses to attract grocery stores to the east end of the District of Columbia. I also want to note that the racial equity and impact assessment generated by the Council Office of Racial Equity concluded that the bill likely improves food access, and the district's Black residents, Indigenous residents, and other residents of color will be further incentivized in order to be able to use the benefits of the bill. I want to thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for your and your staff and the Alcohol Beverage Regulation Administration Director, Fred Musali, and members of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board for helping to make this bill a benefit, certainly to Ward 7, Mr. Chairman. So thank you so much for doing this, and I'm delighted to be able to be a supporter. We're not hearing you, Mr. Chairman.
I think I had myself, my laptop muted. My apologies. I said thank you to Mr. Gray, as well as my other two colleagues for your questions and your comments. I really appreciate it. The feedback throughout the course of this bill has been very engaging, and I think it's been helpful to hear from the folks who we've heard from throughout the course of this more than 9-month process that we've worked through a lot of the issues and challenges in this bill. It's not to say that we worked out every single issue. I know there's still some that are outstanding, but perhaps also better suited for standalone bills with independent hearings and consideration. I am pleased with where we are today, and I appreciate my staff. Ogochike was already mentioned, as well as the staffs of the other members who engaged throughout this process, and the stakeholders in the community, many of whom spent a lot of time giving us positive feedback and critiques about the bill and to the bill that it is today. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I'll move the draft committee report in print with leave for staff to make technical and conforming changes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? Okay, it is unanimous with the members present and voting, and the measure is approved. The committee is going to reconvene shortly after this additional meeting for a performance oversight hearing on the Department of For-Hire Vehicles, the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking, and the Department of Small and Local Business Development. There being no further business before the committee right now, it is 9:30 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.